Maya had always believed that people showed you who they were if you paid close enough attention. She believed in signs, in patterns, in the quiet language of small gestures. She believed in the way someone laughed when they thought nobody was watching, in the way they treated waitstaff, in the particular softness of their voice when they talked about the things they loved. She had built her entire understanding of the world around this belief. She thought it protected her. She thought it made her wise. She believed this right up until the moment she realized she had been reading the wrong language entirely, and that someone she loved had known it all along. She met Diane on the first day of her new job at Hartwell Publishing. Maya had walked in carrying too many things: a laptop bag, a tote, an overfilled coffee cup, and the specific anxiety of someone trying to look calm while falling apart on the inside. She had bumped directly into a woman with short dark hair and warm, laughing brown eyes. The coffee had gone everywhere: on Maya's white blouse, on Diane's sleeve, on the cream-colored carpet that probably cost more than Maya's first paycheck would. "I'm so sorry," Maya had said, her face burning red with embarrassment. Diane had looked at the spreading stain on her blazer sleeve, then slowly back at Maya, with an expression that held absolutely no annoyance at all. "Well," she said, "I've been trying to get rid of this blazer for 2 years. You may have just done me a favor." And that was how it started. Within a week, they were eating lunch together every single day, trading observations about the office, laughing at the same things, finishing each other's sentences in the way that only happens between people who recognize something familiar in one another. Within a month, Diane knew about Maya's difficult divorce, her estrangement from her younger sister, the chronic self-doubt that followed Maya into every room she entered, and her deep, quiet dream of one day editing literary fiction instead of corporate newsletters. And Maya knew about Diane's fierce ambitions, her weekend pottery hobby that she was embarrassed to admit she loved, her complicated relationship with her mother, and the way she still grieved a relationship that had ended 4 years ago but never quite healed. They traded secrets the way other people traded small talk. It felt effortless. It felt like recognition. It felt, above all else, safe. Diane was 5 years older and had been at Hartwell for 3. She understood how the whole machine worked, which editors were worth impressing, which meetings were pure theater, which alliances mattered, and which ones were decorative. She became Maya's compass in a place that could otherwise feel like a maze designed to confuse newcomers. When Maya pitched her first idea in a department meeting and the room went uncomfortably silent, it was Diane who broke the silence by saying, "Actually, I think that's genuinely worth exploring further." The temperature in the room shifted. The idea moved forward. Maya exhaled. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Maya told her one Friday evening, over a second glass of wine at the small bar 2 blocks from their office, the kind of place with low lighting and no music loud enough to interrupt a real conversation. Diane smiled slowly and clinked her glass against Maya's. "You'd be fine," she said. "You'd be more than fine. You just don't know it yet." Maya had heard that as love. She hadn't yet considered that it might also be a careful, deliberate distance being maintained, the kind of distance that allows someone to watch you clearly without ever fully letting you watch them back. The first sign came in October. Maya didn't call it a sign. She called it nothing. She filed it in the quietest corner of her mind under probably overthinking it and moved on, the way people do when the truth is too uncomfortable to examine in full daylight. She had been working on a proposal for almost 4 months, a new editorial series she had titled Undercurrent, designed around debut authors writing about displacement, migration, and the shifting nature of identity. She had poured herself completely into it. Hundreds of hours of research, sample manuscript acquisitions, financial projections, market analysis, and a 30-page vision document. She had shown Diane early drafts, nervously at first, then with growing confidence. Diane had read them carefully, asked thoughtful questions, made small suggestions that Maya had incorporated gratefully, appreciating the collaboration. 2 weeks after one of these sessions, their director Gerald called a department-wide meeting. He announced, with visible excitement, that Hartwell was launching a bold new editorial initiative, a series dedicated to debut voices exploring themes of migration and cultural belonging. He called it the Undercurrent series. Maya sat absolutely still. The room was applauding. Gerald was smiling warmly. Diane, sitting exactly 2 seats to Maya's left, was looking with great concentration at her notepad. Maya told herself she was overreacting. Coincidences existed. These ideas circulated in publishing conversations constantly. Gerald could have arrived at the same concept entirely on his own. She had never submitted anything formally. It was just a concept, just shared enthusiasm over lunch, just trust. She repeated this to herself for 3 days. On the 4th day, she found Diane alone in the small kitchen near the copy room and asked her, keeping her voice carefully neutral, whether she had mentioned the series concept to Gerald at any point. Diane met her eyes with an expression that Maya would later understand was the look of someone who had already, days ago, decided on the version of events they intended to present. "Maya," she said, in a tone of gentle patience, "I may have mentioned some concepts we'd been loosely discussing. I honestly didn't think of it as your specific idea. We talked about so many different things. I didn't realize you felt that level of ownership over what was really a general thematic direction." A general thematic direction. Maya nodded. She said she understood. She went back to her desk and sat for 40 minutes without writing a single word, her coffee going cold beside her. She still didn't pull away. She still laughed at Diane's jokes. She still shared things she absolutely should not have shared anymore. Because to accept the alternative, that her closest friend had done this deliberately and without remorse, was a weight she wasn't ready to carry. So she chose instead the smaller, more manageable pain of uncertainty. The unraveling came in February. It came quietly, and then with the force of something that had been building far longer than she realized. Maya had applied for the senior editor position that opened following Gerald's deputy's retirement. She had prepared for months, documented every contribution, built a meticulous record of her work, rehearsed her interview answers until they were honest rather than just polished. She told Diane about the application early on. Diane had been nothing but warm and encouraging. She had helped Maya practice. She had told her she was the obvious choice, that the role was practically already hers. The morning of her interview, Maya received an email from an anonymous account. The subject line was blank. The body contained 4 words and a PDF attachment. "You should see this." The document was a chain of internal messages between Diane and Gerald, spanning the previous several months. Maya read through them slowly, with the particular stillness of someone watching their entire recent past rearrange itself into a completely different shape. Diane had, with impressive patience and precision, systematically dismantled every significant contribution Maya had made. She framed Maya's independent ideas as vague team conversations. She suggested, subtly and consistently, that Maya struggled to perform under real pressure. She described the undercurrent proposal as something that emerged from broader collaborative discussions, that she herself had been quietly guiding all along. And in the most recent message, sent just 3 days before Maya's interview, Diane had written, "I'd like to put my own name forward for the senior position. I believe I'm better positioned for it. Maya is talented, but I don't think she's quite ready. I'd be happy to discuss my reasoning over coffee." Maya read it 3 times. Then she closed her laptop, stood up, walked to the nearest bathroom, locked a stall, and sat on the floor for 10 full minutes. Not crying, just breathing, just trying to find herself inside the sudden, total strangeness of everything she thought she had known. She thought about the coffee on the carpet on the very first day. She thought about Friday evenings and second glasses of wine, and all the things she had said out loud that she had never said to anyone else. She thought about how Diane had said, "You'd be more than fine," and how Maya had heard tenderness in it when it was actually the calm assessment of someone who had already decided to move ahead of her. She had given Diane the complete map to herself. Every insecurity, every ambition, every draft, every dream. And Diane had studied that map carefully and used it. She could have confronted her. She had imagined it many times, felt the full weight of every word she wanted to say. But when she walked into her interview that same afternoon, something different happened inside her. Something quieter and more permanent than anger. She was asked why she wanted the position. She thought of herself on that bathroom floor. She thought of every time she had made herself smaller to protect a friendship that had never been real. And then she answered with a clarity that surprised even herself. She spoke about the Undercurrent series by name. She described its origins in exact, confident detail. The research timeline, the author contacts, the projections, the vision. She spoke about the market gap she had identified before anyone else in that building had seen it. She spoke without performance, without apology, without the habit of shrinking herself before someone could do it for her. She got the job. She did not celebrate with Diane. She did not warn her before the announcement. When Gerald's email reached the department, Maya watched from across the room as Diane read it, watched the small, controlled stillness move across her face, the look of someone who had built on ground they assumed was solid and felt it shift. Diane came to her desk an hour later with a carefully constructed smile. "Congratulations," she said. "You really deserve it." "I know," Maya said simply, and she meant every syllable. They never had lunch together again. Not because there was a confrontation, not because anything dramatic was said, simply because Maya stopped arranging it, and Diane never once reached out to ask why. What Maya lost was not small or easy to name. She lost a friendship she had believed in completely. She lost more than a year of trust she would never fully reclaim. She lost the version of herself who had believed that openness was always safe, that every person who felt like home actually was one. But she found something too. She found that her instincts had been right from the very beginning, that the ideas she had doubted in herself were worth exactly what she had believed they were worth before someone taught her to question them. She found that she could walk into a room and take up the space that had always belonged to her. The Undercurrent series launched 8 months later under her editorial direction. The debut collection received 3 major literary nominations. One of the authors sent Maya a handwritten note that said, "You saw something in this before anyone else did. Thank you for not letting it disappear." She kept it in the top drawer of her desk. On the day it arrived, she sat alone in her new office, a real office now, with a door and her name outside it, and she let herself feel everything. The grief of the friendship, the weight of what had been taken, the long, slow work of taking it back. She felt it completely, without rushing any of it past herself. Then she opened her laptop. She had authors waiting. She had stories that needed someone to believe in them completely, without reservation, without agenda. She was, she understood now, exactly the right person for that.